Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you guys are having a good day. Today we're back over here at Founder's Forge in this area where the terrace of houses is going to be. And I have started tinkering with some designs in Creative that I'm really happy with for this area. So today we're going to start putting a few of these together, particularly this house here on the corner. Hopefully we will get to the other houses as well if we have time, but I think you guys are going to like this. We've got a good build palette that we're working with, and it's going to involve some blocks that I don't really use all that much. First and foremost being granite. Granite is a block that I've never really liked all that much because of the texture. I mean, really, that's all there is to it. This doesn't seem like a block that I would want to use all that much. Now, when it comes to the new texture update, I haven't really played around with granite all that much to figure out whether or not I like it, but I think it is an improvement over this sort of fairly random texture that the original programmer art has. Not only that, but we also have the option of using polished granite, which I don't have much of, so I'll probably just use a bunch of this to make a stack or two, and polished granite is quite nice. Polished granite gives a very smooth look to it. It looks a little bit like the kind of materials that you see city buildings being made out of, and I think we're going to use that sparingly in this build, but it's going to come together pretty well. We're also going to use some raw terracotta, not even going to worry about dyeing this terracotta, we're just going to use the raw form, and as you can see, these kind of have a fairly similar color thing going on. They are different in terms of the texture, but in terms of the sort of reddish tones that they have going on, this kind of reddish pink and a little bit of brown mixed in here and there, they've got some similarities. So we're going to stick a bunch of these in a shulker box and keep those on us for the build palette. But there is one final ingredient that, once again, is a block that people don't use all that often, myself included, and I kind of wanted to move away from the stone and stone brick that we've been building with elsewhere whenever we take on a build of this size. Not least because over here we have whole walls, and the terrace itself, like the terrace floor over there, is made of stone and stone brick. So I want to move away from using that, and instead we're going to be using a block that has, again, some similarities to granite and terracotta. We're going to be using red brick. Red brick is a much maligned block in Minecraft. A lot of people don't like the default red brick texture, although once again, the texture in the new update is actually looking quite good, and a lot of people seem to like that one a great deal more. So yeah, it remains to be seen quite how this will look when we implement the new textures, but I have been smelting up a whole ton of bricks thanks to the blacksmith auto smelter and a quick dig in the swamp, and we have ourselves a pretty decent block palette for at least the outer wall of this build. So in terms of how I want to title this episode and kind of how I want to structure the lesson here, this is going to be a lesson in how to use the blocks you hate, because these are blocks that I have not had a great deal of fun using in the past. In fact, a lot of the time they sit untouched in a chest, or I burn them in lava or something, or I just ignore them entirely, with the exception of bricks, because bricks are too valuable to do that with. But even so, a lot of people don't like this brick texture, and we're going to have a go at using it well today. Now, make no mistake, we are not going to be using exclusively those textures for a build, because goodness me, that would actually be awful. No, the trick to using blocks like this, to using blocks that you dislike in this kind of way, is by merging them with the blocks you do like and putting together like an interesting structure around it and using them in interesting ways. So I'm going to pick up some dark oak planks and logs. We're going to make some of those into fences and stuff later as well. We're going to need a ton of spruce, which is probably going to require me to farm even more of it, even though we have a little bit of it lying around in here. I'll bring the slabs actually, because we'll probably end up using slabs for most of this build, and some oak wood, which thankfully we have a decent amount of in supply here, but I will probably have to do a little bit of resource gathering later on in the week. We're also going to make use of the dark prismarine that is going to be found so regularly in Founder's Forge, and I think that's more or less it. We might come back to the storage system for a few supplies here and there. Actually, let's bring a couple of sea lanterns for lighting as well, but for the most part, that's going to be it. Oh, glass. We'll need glass for the windows too. So this is what we're working with right now, and I think this is going to go pretty well. We're going to strip some of the oak logs so that they're going to take the place of the walls. We're going to have some walls made of prismarine, but there's going to be a low wall around the outside, which is made of a mixture of the granite, terracotta, polished granite and bricks, and I think this is going to look pretty good. I've actually done a mock-up of this in Creative, and it turned out pretty well. Now, one thing, we are going to have to deviate slightly from the footprint here. We're going to use this as a template, but the design I built in Creative is a mite bigger than this. It's just a touch bigger, so we're going to have to probably move some of this concrete powder around in order to get the shape that we want here, but we're probably going to have to move it a couple of blocks this way as well. I think it's going to work out well, though. Now, because this is going to be a terrace of houses, they're all going to be joined in the middle, meaning that those separating walls that I've set up here don't necessarily have to be 2 blocks thick in the way they are here. They can just be 1 block and it's a wall that they share. So in this case, we're going to start out over here. I think that's about as much room as I want to give it. So let's start with a wall here. We're going to make this out of a randomized sort of pattern of bricks and the granite and the polished granite and so forth. It's a good thing I had a bed with me in the marketplace already. I think I'm going to pop that on top of one of the market stall roofs here so that we can go to sleep whenever we want to, because the night always comes around quicker than I expect. So this is going to extend 6 blocks in this direction, like so. We're going to put another one on there, and then, yeah, we need to come in 1 block there and there. Okay, that's not too bad. We might actually shift it over by 1 more block then. There we go. We have this low front wall starting to develop, from which we're going to build upwards with the wood and dark prismarine and stuff that I love, incorporating the blocks that I like a little bit less into this design as we go. And yeah, I think this is looking good. The main thing is to build a contrast between the floor and the wall here. What the heck? Where was that? Where did that creeper just fall down? Excuse you? Hi! Man, if there's one thing that's guaranteed to make me jump in a game of Minecraft, it's random creeper noise. It's whenever a creeper falls off of stuff like that. I get jumpy. I get nervous. But yeah, we're going to mix in a few brick slabs and stairs here and there as well, because of the materials that we have here. Right now, in 1.13, the version we're playing in, you can only have slabs of the 4 materials out of the bricks, whereas I think in 1.14 and above, we're going to be able to use stairs made of polished granite and raw granite as well. So that's not going to be too much of a problem in later versions. For now, we'll stick to the blocks that we have. And when we've got the rest of this built up, it's almost going to give the impression that there is this shell of brick materials and these kind of terracotta color palette materials that the rest of the house is breaking up out of. I kind of like that as a style. I'm not trying to follow my creative build exactly, but it's good to have a guideline of sorts. And then about here, we're going to start a row of steps leading up to the front door of the shop that's going to be here. So like I said before, this bottom half is going to be a shop, and then above that, there's going to be a house where the shopkeeper will live. And the way this is going to work out, the entrance to it is actually going to be up here, meaning that this whole bottom section of the house can be reserved for a basement that the shopkeeper could keep supplies for their shop in. So the staircase is just going to be a row of slabs leading up to the door like so, and I think it makes sense to use slabs in a design like this, mainly because if you put stairs in, you can have a shallower set of stairs, but then if you want to do an instant like left turn like that, it always gets a little bit awkward because there's one set of stairs facing that way and another set facing this way. So yeah, I think we'll put the slabs in like so. We'll be able to decorate a little bit more around this. Doesn't look like much so far, but it will. So far, so good. I've started putting in the logs either side of the doorway, and we're going to strip those because I really like the stripped wood texture, and I think it makes for quite a nice plain wall while still giving it a little bit of texture in there. We're actually going to have those behind here as well. Let me lay down some slabs behind here just for these to rest on so we don't have to build them all the way down to the ground. And what we're going to do is alternate logs over here, and we're going to shape these into window frames. And of course, you want to have windows in here because you want the customers to be able to see out once they're in here. You want people outside to be able to look in at some merchandise that might be displayed in the shop window. And obviously, it's going to let some natural light in from the outside. Now, this corner section here is where we're going to fill in some of the dark prismarine. And the fact that we've got little kind of openings here and there, and the front wall is a little bit uneven, means that the prismarine in here is going to look a lot more dynamic. Not to mention that the prismarine is such a contrast with the brick, it really makes it pop. And we're going to use this fairly sparingly. This is only just going to be this one corner that's really got the prismarine in it. We might use some around the doorway as well, but really from the front of the build, that's the only section you're going to see, and that's really going to stand out. On the corner here, we're going to have a sea lantern, which is uncommon for the rest of this area. We don't really have much in the way of sea lantern lighting. I'm using redstone lamps inside the blacksmith's guild, torches in other places, and hidden lighting here and there. But the fact that a sea lantern is out here kind of means that this neighborhood might be a little bit classier. The sea lanterns look kind of clean, they look the kind of thing that you might find in a more rich neighborhood, and they look a little bit more modern too. The idea I want is that if these people are going to be the people who trade better, they're going to be up here on this terrace, they're going to be trading better materials, getting more money, and ultimately they can afford stuff to make their builds stand out, like these sea lanterns, which in the fiction of this world might be a little more rare. Now, I've been out to the swamp, got myself some blue orchids, and dyed this glass a light blue, because I think that would be a nice glass color to kind of offset how brown the rest of this is. I could just use clear glass, but I feel like light blue kind of stands out in a subtle way. It doesn't make it too over the top. It's not like we're using anything that's like bright red or bright green. Along the top row of the windows here, we're going to build up with some spruce slabs just to frame out the windows a little bit here. Building with slabs like this allows you to have a little bit more control over where this stuff is placed, having a single slab in the middle like that, and that will frame out this window nicely, and we can start working on the upper floor. We're also going to use some slabs built on top of this fence to create a canopy for the corner of the house, and that's going to lead into a sort of balcony area up here. We're going to build the prismarine up one more block, and then there's going to be a balcony from the upstairs section where the shopkeeper could, walk out and take a look around. Continuing the front wall up here, we're going to stick with the same design, but make the windows one block shorter to give the impression that maybe the top floor is just a little bit more private like that. I think that's going to work out pretty well. We'll strip the logs rather, that way, and then have oak stairs at the top there. So we can just have one block high window panes in each of these. We'll be able to take a look at those in a second once we're down. I think we're going to wrap up the top floor here just with a row of stripped logs, like so, and then we can frame out the top here in much the same way that we framed out the lower windows. This time we're going to build the slabs a little bit higher up than the window frames, so if we come down here, yeah, that's looking quite nice. I like that. We're also going to add some fences, much the same as these dark oak fences here, just to frame out that window a little better too. And fences are also going to be used around this front porch area to hold up a kind of canopy that's going to come down from the upper floor over here. We're going to build up this canopy in sections of 3 slabs each time, like so. So it's going to sit on top of the fence posts around the outside of this porch area. One more underneath there, like so, just to finish that off. Just so it's this kind of stair-step pattern with slabs. And I think that's going to look really nice from the outside. Let's take a quick look. Yeah, that's looking good. And above this canopy, we can do the same thing with the windows here that we've done on the front, framing them out with stripped oak logs, adding in the oak stairs around the windows, and filling the windows in with blue glass. Now, this section here is going to be the balcony, and I could put fences up here, but it's still possible to walk through fences when they're kind of on a corner like this. So what I was thinking about doing here was putting cobblestone walls instead, because the hitbox of a cobblestone wall is a little bit wider, and it's not possible to actually walk through. Not that we'd be up here much to walk through them anyway, but just for the sake of immersion, I think it's going to be fun to have an actual physical railing in here stopping anybody from walking off the balcony. For that, I'll need to go and grab some cobblestone, which I don't have on me right now, so we'll just continue with the rest of the build in the meantime. The balcony is going to be small, and by that I mean very small. There's only really going to be a 1-block space for you to walk around in, but it's going to have doors, access from the inside, probably here, and over here as well. And those are going to be right by the windows, but we should be able to place the doors in a way that doesn't conflict too much with those. The top here, we're going to have another spruce canopy reaching out like this, framing out the doors, and then that's going to meet up with the roof line around there, I think, just to give this area a bit of shelter. And now if I use my rockets, I should be able to get up to the roof. Now the roof up here is just going to be made out of these dark oak planks, and I didn't expect it to be this simple, but when I put this together in creative, the simpler roof just felt like a better thing to do. And we're going to have a ridge of dark oak slabs down the center, but that's really all it takes at this point. So now if we drop down here to look at this, yeah, that's looking pretty much there. It's got a couple of doors missing up here, another door over here, all of which I think I will probably make out of oak. I used acacia in the original design because I like the acacia doors quite a lot, but we're just going to get 3 oak doors from this. That seems like a decent thing to do. Pop a door in there, and 2 up on the balcony if I can move these ladders. Yeah, all right, I like that. It looks really nice in context with all the market stalls and stuff around. Being able to walk over here and see this from a distance, yeah, definitely looks like a high-class shop in the shopping area. Very cool. I think we can probably do something similar with the neighboring houses as well. We want to do a little bit of variety. Maybe we'll go for some variety of materials here and there, but I like the aesthetic of these things, and a row of those would make them kind of look like townhouses with shops at the bottom, which is precisely what I want. Really happy with that so far. One thing I don't want to do yet is close off this wall, because if I do that, it's going to kind of influence what I do with the next house along, and I feel like I'll constantly be kind of budging out of the way. I'm trying to break my own habits of building individual houses and building them with gaps between the middle. If these houses are going to be part of a terrace, then they all need to adjoin in a pattern like this. And so, yeah, this is kind of breaking me of my habits. I'm using blocks that I don't initially like, but I think look really good in that kind of combination with the rest of the materials. And also, I'm trying to learn to build a little bit closer together and not leave big old alleyways and paths between my houses when I want them to be all clustered together in the center of a city. So I'm going to do a little bit more tinkering in my creative world, try and find some stuff that will look good next to this house in the rest of the road, see if we need to change the materials up a little bit, but I think this next set of builds will probably look good in the form of a time lapse.
You must remember this, a kiss is still a kiss. You must remember this, a kiss is still a kiss. As time goes by, you must remember this, a kiss is still a kiss. As time goes by.
Welcome back, folks. I hope you enjoyed the time lapse, and I really enjoyed the design of these houses. I think they came together very well. After a little bit of looking at this, I'm not entirely certain if I want to keep the dark oak and birch combo in here. It's a little bit too contrasty, and there's so many different wood types going on here that I think it looks a little bit cluttered. But for now, I think it's going to stay, because I can't think of any better materials to use at the moment. But I might experiment with that a little bit off camera, do a little bit more work in creative, and see how I feel about that in the long run. But as it goes, these are a nice little row of houses. I've got some of the interior layout sort of set up, just in terms of where the dividing walls are going to go along here. It's going to be difficult to actually find a decent dividing wall. I might just make it all out of trapdoors, because they're the thinnest thing that you can really place vertically in this game. And as far as ladders and stuff to the upstairs go, there's actually some pretty good locations for them. Oh, we need a block of some sort, at least in there. There we go. Cool. So down here, you can go down to the floor below from any of these kind of pillars on the corner where you don't have a window, and I think that's probably the best places for the ladders in the meantime. We could even have the shop counters kind of around here so that it looks like the management have access to that ladder, but of course the manager of the shop is going to be the person who lives above here, so that kind of makes a little bit of sense. Plus you would have the counters on the way out so that you can make sure that you pay for your goods before you exit the store. That's the idea. And so each of these they feel a little bit dynamic because they have doors in different places. The middle shop has the door right there on the front so you can see it from street level. This one you can look at the windows on the outside and then go around to this porch area where the door is to that shop. And then this one actually has a corner door, which is not something I've built before on this particular series, but the corner doors like this, you can place two doors kind of at a diagonal like this, and a single pressure plate next to them will open them like that, so you can make corner entrances quite easily. And the other pressure plate in there looks a little bit weird. I need to get a better way of getting up here as well. Let's just make a rudimentary staircase down here for now. There we go, a little winding staircase like that shouldn't be too bad. And then once we step in here, this pressure plate will also open both of those doors because they're resting on that block and that block there. So the pressure plate directly powers the doors to either side. We could even swap this out for a spruce pressure plate if we wanted it to blend in with the floor a little bit better. But for right now, I just like being able to see where that is. I haven't finished the fourth house in this row, the one that was going to be around the corner, because I want to do something a little bit different with it. Now that I've got these three designs in place, we've kind of established a pattern. I want to break the pattern for building number 4. We're probably still going to have this around the outside, but I want it to maybe have some slightly different materials involved. That way it will really stand out, aside from being on the end of this curve here. I do want it to look a little bit different. So I'll be working on that design off camera, but I figured we can probably go with it for now. And I am not hating the granite. I'm not hating the granite. I'm not hating the bricks. I think they turned out pretty well in this little palette. And I hope that has given you guys some kind of encouragement as regards the blocks that you personally hate in this game. If you're not a fan of, say, diorite or something like that, consider using it here and there in a build just to build up a little bit of texture. Mix it in with, I don't know, like snow and quartz and that kind of stuff, and see if you can create a pattern like this that doesn't necessarily have to stand out. It's not the feature of this build, but it's a way you can integrate it and make the most out of the blocks that you have in a way that feels like it contributes to the aesthetic of the area as a whole. I hope that's a lesson you guys can take away from this episode, because I think it's worth doing. I think it is worth challenging yourself like that every now and again when it comes to builds like this. And in terms of the aesthetic of this area, these builds actually look pretty good. They've got a similar color palette to the stuff that we've already built here, but they stand out there on their own, and that's what I like about them. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. Please do leave a like on the episode if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.